What's the anime called that we're going to review today?
Shiguri.
Death Frenzy.
Or Death Frenzy. Death Frenzy. We'll go with Death Frenzy. That's a lot easier to say.
See, I couldn't even say that Shiguri part. I always call it Death Frenzy, man. So my question is, oh boy, what do you get when you mix a blind samurai with a one-armed samurai?
That sounds like a lot of older samurai movies.
Well, in this case, you don't get anything.
Yeah.
I didn't get to find out what the fuck happened in this fucking...
I think you're introducing them to this wrong. I mean, you have this tournament.
All right, hold on. Let's do the official synopsis. See, you fucked up my joke. You see, we're gonna do the synopsis right now. But I was just saying that, you know, that's what you start with, and I'm just letting the people know. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's a bad introduction, but this anime doesn't end.
I was actually gonna say, you actually get a good deal of hype going into this right at the beginning, and then you ultimately end up with nothing.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, let's get on with the basic plot line, the synopsis for the Death Frenzy. The story begins in 1629 in the Shizuoka period during the Tokugawa's rule. I know I fucked that up. So, the Daimyo stages a tournament where the participants fight with real steel Japanese swords instead of boken, which is what you fight with when they're having, tournaments. So they don't kill each other. But for some reason, the emperor at the time decided that, fighting with real swords will be more entertaining. So this is where you're introduced to the main two characters that is going to be the headline for the whole anime. On the one hand, you've got Fujiki Genosuke, who's a one-armed samurai, and on the other hand, you've got Iraku Seigen, who is blind. So this is the first episode we're just talking about. They step into the ring, and then the anime starts off by going back into the past because these two characters have a history, they hate each other, and that is the basic synopsis, of the anime. Because from then you start from the beginning and you find out their history. So, yeah, let's talk about the characters, old boy. Who do you want to start with?
We can start out with the protagonist, Genosuke.
Genosuke. How do you feel about this guy, Genosuke?
It depends. Are we talking about... Because I've read the manga too. Do you want me to do it separately? You want me to kind of blend it? What do you want me to do?
Well, you've seen the anime and read the manga, and you're saying that the manga doesn't really go into much more detail than the anime, right?
No, it does, actually. It goes into more depth with all the characters. There's actually a lot more characters, plenty of which aren't necessary, concerning the duel and everything.
Well, just tell us what you find out about Genosuke in the beginning of the anime. Tell us a bit about him.
He's really just kind of the star pupil of the teacher, Kogen, who is a strange fellow we'll get into himself. But, Kogen has his own style of school, which was pretty popular back in that period. There's a bunch of different sword schools, and Genosuke was his best guy. He's a pretty quiet guy, not very prone to emotional outbursts or anything. Well, like a typical samurai back then. They were pretty... lukewarm, I would say. It's probably not the best way to put it, but that's the kind of impression I get.
No, I think that's pretty accurate, actually.
Yeah, it's just not a flattering word to use, but I mean, he's pretty good at what he does. I mean,
he seems like the kind of model student in the dojo. Like you said, he's the successor, he's the best in the dojo, but he just seems kind of plain and ordinary, and like you said, very typical.
Yeah, he's typical, not very wordy, pretty humble, which is kind of odd because even though he's humble, he still has, even when you're humble, you still have things you accept. You're kind of think you're going to be given, once you kind of think you've earned it, and that's kind of actually against the samurai code.
So I think things start to get interesting when the antagonist gets involved, which is Arako. So tell us how he comes into the storyline.
Oh yeah, it's the you see it a lot. You see it mocked a lot in anime and manga, where this guy comes in and he challenges the dojo for its name.
Yeah.
This is the period of time where that sort of thing actually happened. So Iroko comes in and he challenges them. He actually wants to fight the master Kogen, but they're like, no, you're gonna.
Before you go on, he seems to be like a traveling samurai. He seems to, like you said, he goes around dojos, beating the the masters and collecting their sign. And obviously, that's our introduction to him. He comes into this dojo and challenges them.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, all he does is, even in anime, you kind of find out he goes around, he collects techniques by any means necessary, and then he continues on his way. He wants to become, I guess, like a really long stretches. He's kind of like Griffiths from Berserk, but as a wandering samurai.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, you don't know if you agree with that because him and Genosuke and some of the other characters have more personal history and everything that's not shown in the anime.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, I mean that in the anime, that's a really long stretch. But that's basically what he does. He's like a thief. He goes in there, he takes techniques. He ultimately wants to get a high position in the feudal system through his prowess.
Well, there's only 2 more characters to really talk about, because to me there's only 4 main characters. And it's like a natural progression, because the next character we should talk about is the actual master of the dojo, Kogen.
Yeah, Kogen. Well, he's an interesting guy.
A very interesting guy.
Yeah, I think this is a historical fiction, so I think Kogen, Genosuke, and Irako, and some of the other characters that aren't as important, but I think they're actually all supposed to have existed, but we don't know exactly the circumstances. This is kind of like, historical fiction.
So this is based on, real people, but obviously we don't actually know the facts, so yeah.
Yeah, so that's always kind of an interesting thing to me. That's a little bit of a draw that brought me into it. But Kogen he's a really strange fellow.
Why is he so strange?
Well, for one, back when he was younger, he would used to do what Irako did, except he would extort money from people. He'd go in there, he'd beat the master and, the other pupils if they wanted to fight him, and then he'd take a tithe from them. And he
tithe.
Yeah, he tax them, and he make it into a yearly thing. So clearly this guy was kind of a dickhead when he was younger. When the story starts, he's a frail old man. Well, actually, I don't even want to say frail, but he's old. He's older.
But he got dementia.
Yeah, he's senile. He has dementia most of the time. It appears like during certain seasons he becomes lucid more often than other times, but for the most part, he's off in La La Land.
Well, to be specific, apparently only one day in the whole year he becomes clear. His dementia breaks and he's clear-minded, and in that day is when he makes all the most important decisions. And after that, he just apparently goes back into his psychosis or whatever.
I think it's more than that. I think he always does that one day, but other times he'll kind of come in and out of it.
Okay,
otherwise, how would you would be looking at this story over the period of like 25 years or something?
That's true. All right, so yeah, he's a master of the dojo that Genosuke's in, and I know I'm just going over what you said again, but yeah, he's a crazy master, but he seems to have some kind of really great technique.
Actually, he has several, but the one that's most well known is like this thing called shooting star, where he holds the sword between his fingertips, almost all the way outstretched, and then at the very end, at the hilt of the sword, so he has like that maybe 4 or 5 inch reach over his opponents. It's very odd, but I mean that's his thing, and it's got him his fame. I mean he's actually a feudal lord because of it.
Yeah. He has a daughter as well, doesn't he? What's his daughter's name?
Unfortunately for both of them, he has a daughter instead of a son, and she's Mie. There's not exactly a whole lot to her. I mean,
nothing to really talk about with her. Oh, she just sorry, I'll just say that part because she's just his daughter. And it's funny you should say unfortunate for him, but if he never really had a daughter, I guess he'll just have to marry off his son to continue the bloodline.
If he had a son, then he would have a legitimate heir, and he probably wouldn't be as batshit crazy. Because a large part of his dementia, I think, was he needs to build a successor to marry his daughter to continue the bloodline strongly. He's kind of obsessed with that. Whereas if he had a son, as long as the son wasn't some wasted cum stain, he'd be okay.
I think it's worth mentioning that there are other characters in the anime, but they're all just like pupils of the dojo or opposing dojos. They're not really important. It's these 4 characters, and even the daughter is not even. She doesn't even play a big part in anime.
I'd say the Gozaimon guy is actually a little bit more important than the daughter.
Mm.
You know,
Who's that?
He's the really big guy with the fucked up teeth who is actually more of Genosuke's mentor than Kogen is.
I remember that guy. Didn't he fight? He actually was the first one to fight Irako instead of.
No, Genosuke fought Irako, and then he got really riled and lost. And then Gozaimon's like, okay, well, you gotta beat me, and if you beat me, you can go see Kogen. And Gozaimon scared the shit out of Irako. He didn't even want to fight him.
But then he did beat Irako, and then that's Irako became a pupil of the dojo after that, didn't he?
Yeah, he begged to become one.
After he lost.
Well, I don't know if I really want to call it a lot. He like hit on top of a rafter. He got too scared.
Oh yeah. I think that's right. Actually, I don't. Yeah, I'm even a bit. I can't remember clearly. I think he did kind of lose, but not lose entirely or something. And then like you said, he jumped and hid up and begged to join them, and then he became a pupil. And I think that's where the tension between Genosuke and Irako begins.
I think it actually begins in their fight.
No, that's what I meant. Because he beats it. You mentioned that already. Because Irako beat Genosuke, and then he joins the dojo, it looks like, wow, this new guy who's better than Genosuke's joined, then obviously Genosuke looked like he was going to become a successor. But now this new guy who beat him, people are starting to wonder that, shit, this new guy, maybe he should be the successor. But until the storyline starts chugging along, you don't really find out how things play out.
Yeah, and it takes a while too. Even though this is a short anime, they waste quite a few episodes before they get started.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned that. But anyway, we're going to actually talk about the storyline in depth. But before that, let's talk about the animation, which to me is a shining point for this anime.
Most definitely agreed.
The animation is done by Madhouse people. So if Madhouse did some of the greatest anime, they got a very long list of anime. I'm not even going to bother go through. The visuals in the anime is top notch. This anime is very violent, by the way, very graphic with the violence. So if you're a soft boy or softy, then you shouldn't really watch this one. And they take a lot of detail in scenery. They slow things down, not in a lame way like The Matrix or anything like that, but there's a lot of attention to detail in this anime. It's very arty, actually.
Yeah.
Very, very arty.
Oh, it's like you're saying, not like The Matrix. It's they slow the pace, not the fighting in action. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know what to compare it to, because it's kind of even unique. I don't know why they spent. I'm even confused. Maybe after I've watched it now, and I don't want to say I was disappointed or whatever, but right now, I don't know why they spent so much money on the animation, because this one looks like it was quite expensive to make. But for the most part, I really enjoyed the animation. I think it's easily the best part of the whole anime.
Yeah, that's agreed. I mean, the sound actually is pretty good too, but the shining point of this was how smooth and everything flowed, like when there was action, and how good actually all the characters and sets and stuff looked.
I think another disappointing bit, it wasn't that disappointing, but the opening,
Yeah.
It was kind of this ink drawing shaky cam kind of thing where you can't really see what's going on. It's like a first person action scene or something where you can't really see anything. It's very inky and it's weird.
It's very red.
It's very red, and it looks like someone's running through a forest or something, and the closing scene is just nothing. I think it's just like...
I like the song, though. It's with the taiko drums.
We're going to get to moving on to the sound. We both watched the English dub for this, didn't we?
Did I? No, I think I watched it subbed.
Nice. Okay, so how do you feel about the sub then?
Well, I don't speak Japanese very well, so sounded as good as any other Japanese voice one.
How did it sound, old boy? I know you speak Japanese, so you can tell us how the Japanese actors were.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but it sounded fine to me. I mean,
yeah. Well, the dub, to be honest with you, like you said, that most people I know, so not to be ignorant, don't speak or understand Japanese, so if you're reading subtitles, you can't really judge the audio. But anyway, I watched the English dub, and the English dub I didn't have a problem with it. I think it was pretty good, so not really noticeable, But yeah, you spoke about the music, and actually that's another good point in the anime. the sound effects, it builds a lot of atmosphere in this anime because when it's not violent, you just hear a lot of natural sounds like crickets or just dead sounds that build up a lot of tension. Well, that's how I felt anyway.
Yeah, I feel like they did a good job of transporting you because, in our era, it's very noisy, very bustling. There's always some kind of noise, and movement. And it does a job of transporting you to a slower time period where, you could hear the crickets and the cicadas and the wind through the grass and stuff like that while you're thinking.
But you said before you really liked the outro music, right?
I like the intro music. I don't remember the outro music.
Okay, intro music was kind of crazy, man. Yeah. What's wrong with you?
Well, there's the taiko drum one, right? Where it's all...
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I liked it.
Sounded like someone was being hunted, man. They were on hunt to kill someone.
I don't think you're looking a little bit too into it, or maybe you're revealing some homicidal tendencies. You're
the one that liked the homicidal music, not me. I'm just saying that you're crazy for liking that shit.
Just like drums, man. I didn't even watch the video. I'll wait for it to start.
Stop playing innocent, alright? Anyway, let's move on to the storyline, man, because, man, that's where this anime for me is weird.
It is definitely odd.
I mean, like we said, didn't it? It starts off in the future where you see the two main characters about to have a battle, and then they go into the past to kind of explain how they got to that point. And, we kind of spoke about, the Raku comes to the dojo, he challenges Genosuke, he beats Genosuke, I think he breaks his fucking fingers, actually.
Yeah, he does.
Breaks his hand, and then he becomes a student of the dojo. So after that, people, I don't know if I'm going to consider this. The whole anime is predictable. It's predictable. It's a predictable anime. You kind of know how things are going to go, but the way the characters act is what is strange. The characters themselves are strange to me. That's what the strange thing is, not the actual storyline. Because when you take a step back and look at everything that happens, there's only one big twist that I'm not even going to spoil. But I just found the storyline to be really weird, just because of the way the characters were acting. Like, for instance, Genosuke, he's the protagonist apparently, and like I said, he gets his hands broken, so it looks like he ain't gonna be the successor anymore. And then he just kind of he becomes very introverted into himself and starts trying to figure out, I don't know, he starts practicing.
I think he goes in his own way. He tries to become better than Yuraku, like find his own technique that would defeat him. But he's not very social about it. He just becomes very withdrawn, like you said, and does his own thing. And he doesn't even really come out and say that or anything, even to himself. He just starts practicing.
Very, very emo, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think a large part of Death Frenzy was supposed to be to draw you into what it was like in the feudal era for samurai. So it's like, yeah, they act really weird, but they were kind of weird back then. They're a lot different than we are now.
Yeah.
It's like I said. It's like a fanatical thing. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying, but like I said, even as a protagonist, Genosuke, for me, he was, like you said, maybe that's what separates this from other samurai anime where I'm kind of used to the main character following a certain guideline, but he was so withdrawn. And I'm going to get to Iraku, I'm not saying his name anymore. Iraku was my favorite character because he had the most character depth in the whole anime to me because, he is the antagonist, if you ask me. Maybe he's not, I don't know. Because they show you a lot of emotional sides to him. As the anime goes on, you find out a lot about his past, and I don't know, man. I started to feel sorry for the guy.
Actually, you don't find out very much about his past compared to the manga. So, but in the anime, yeah, especially compared to Genosuke. Genosuke has like no personality or history.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I felt like
in the anime,
I found out so much about Irako, but even the master, he just seemed like a complete psychopath with one great technique. And Irako, he comes in the story, you don't really know him, then you get to know him, you get to know his plans. He obviously just wants to become more powerful, even when he's, becoming a subordinate to the dojo. He's planning that shit. I just want to marry the guy's daughter become the head guy and then fuck all these guys, kill all these fuckers,
Yeah, I think a good comparison is like Konosuke. He has his life plotted out and everything. His fate's already there, whereas Irako is making his own fate, and that's typically what a protagonist is like. He makes his own fate. He doesn't have it predestined.
Yeah. But as a watcher of the anime, I was really bored by everyone in this anime except for Irako, to be honest with you. And like I said, the characters were so weird. I only felt like I got a really good storyline out of Irako. Everyone else was just kind of weird. Even the daughter. The daughter, you think, she's just looking for someone to love her. But she gets, I don't know, something happens to her mind through the anime and she becomes kind of twisted. But I'm not going to say what happens, but I was like, okay, I didn't really see that coming. And I actually like the fact that some of the characters that I thought were predictable, they did things I didn't expect. That the daughter was one of them. And Irako, he was kind of unpredictable anyway. He did something like, well, I can't spoil it, but he started to do some betrayal stuff on the outside. And later on, there's a big plot twist involving Irako, and then you start to get closer to the first episode where, you're finding out how Irako becomes blind and how Inosuke loses his arm.
And why they hate each other and why they want to fight to the death and how they have these weird self-made techniques that they're going to show in this duel that you're never going to get.
Might as well just get to that point now. Yeah, that's the biggest issue with the anime. It builds you up because you want to get back to that first episode to, okay, because, by the time you get to episode 10, 11, you know everything. Like, okay, now I see how these two got to this point. So let's get back to that fight and let's just see what happens. You know what? Fuck you. No.
Yeah.
Let's just end the anime right here instead. And you never get to find out what happens.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, man, because I had read the manga and I mentioned it to you and you're actually, hey, this is the anime, so why don't we watch the anime? I was like, okay, I'll watch the anime. The whole reason why I watched the anime was to see that fight animated.
So yeah, that one fight, you're watching the whole anime just to get back to episode 1 to find out, or first you want to find out what the deal is with these two, but by the time all right, let's just have this one fight and then, my 13 episode anime is done. But guess what? For some reason, I have no fucking clue, they decided not to make the anime. I don't know if they were trying to be, they do this in movies where they don't show you the ending. You don't need to know the ending. But this is based off a manga, and there's an ending in the manga. So don't. Why are you doing this then in the anime? What's the point?
Yeah, I don't know what to say, man. I don't have anything to argue with.
Well, we can't, I'm not going to spoil it for you people, but old boy has read all the manga, right?
Yes, I have. I have completed it.
You know how it ends, yeah?
I do.
And I had to ask you how it ended. And I have to say, man, I was very happy with the ending from what you told me, and I really wish they animated it, because it's only one more episode. That's all it fucking is, 20 minutes.
Actually, it wouldn't have even been another episode. It would have been like 7 minutes or less.
They could have tacked it on the end.
Yeah.
You're right. They fast forwarded and then just tacked it on the end, but they fucking didn't. And then, anyway, so after all of that, man, I'm going to let you go first and give your rating for this anime.
Okay, for me, the anime, that's a really tough call, but I would say an acquired taste. Personally, for me, not feeling this, but it's an acquired taste because I can see people who are really into the historical fiction, particularly the samurai sort of stuff. And this is actually a lot different than any other samurai stuff I've ever seen or read, where you can kind of, I think, get a better feel of what it might have been like, that whole mindset and everything, the tradition and stuff. I think it does a good job of pulling you back into that era. It's just they make some fatal flaws, like especially with how good the animation was and everything. Not to have that climatic finale, it was like, why?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I have to give it a quiet taste as well, because in anime, there's tons of samurai anime. I mean, that's one genre or one type of anime that's been overdone. So to see this anime do something different with an art style and with a kind of storyline that isn't so predictable, a couple of twists and the characters are strange, it had a sense of originality in there. But then, for some unknown reason, it decided not to just give you that last piece of the puzzle. So hints of originality, but it's not conclusive for no good reason, because the manga is conclusive. So what's the point of doing that? It makes no fucking sense to me. You spent all this money on the animation, you just won't give that one last fight. And like you said, it doesn't even feel like it would take that long. So yeah, I actually was gonna give it a watchable because I felt like you get a lot of different things from this anime, new things you haven't seen in other samurai, but I'm just too annoyed and it hasn't really aged well. I watched this a couple months ago and thinking back on it, I'm like, you know what? Apart from the art style, it's just weird.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird.
So for that, I have to give it an acquired taste. It's up to you. If you watch a clip on YouTube and then decide, and keep in mind, I'll save you the trouble and tell you that it doesn't. If you have to read the manga if you want to know how it concludes. So, it's up to you, people. Make up your own mind about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you want me to talk about the manga because there's actually quite a few differences.
All right, so people, at this point, if you want to listen to more, I think Old Boy is going to elaborate a bit more on the manga. Actually, you know what, Old Boy?
Hmm?
You know what? Actually, people might not want to read the manga to even know how it ends. So at this point, I'm going to tell listeners right now, if you don't want to know how it actually ends, or for some reason, don't listen anymore, because Old Boy is going to talk about the manga and he's going to tell you how it actually ends. Because I think some people might actually want to know that I've seen this. So go ahead, man. All right, go with how it ends first, and then you can go and talk about the other stuff you want to talk about as well.
All right.
Because on the last, talk about the fight that, Genosuke versus Urako. What happens? How does it end?
The fight that takes 13 episodes to build up the hype for.
And doesn't get there, yeah.
It doesn't ever, you get cock teased and you never come.
Who wins, Old Boy? I'm dying to know. Is it Genosuke or is it Urako? Who won the fight?
One guy wins, but ultimately they both lose.
Yes.
Yes. What happens is they have their ultimate techniques. They're masters of it. They start facing off. They're starting to fight finally, and I think Irako injures Genosuke, and then they make a second. They make a second pass at each other, and Genosuke kills Irako.
How'd he kill him?
If I'm not mistaken, he uses his own technique.
Does it cut off his head? Anything serious? Or was it just like a stabbing kind of thing?
Oh no, it's a slash. He does his special move's a slashing attack, but it's like you said, it doesn't carry on very well over time. If we had done this sooner, I might remember, but I don't remember exactly how he died.
It's okay, Peter. Don't worry about that, man.
Yeah, well, the important thing is Genosuke kills Irako. He finally kills that son of a bitch. And then he's like, oh, everything's going to be all happy. I'm going to get married and everything. And then he goes over to the daughter of Kogen, and she killed herself. And it's like, oh, well, that's lovely.
And why did she, because we might as well spoil this, but why did she kill herself anyway? That's weird.
Well, you see this right in the episode. The very first episode is she has some kind of, I don't want to call it a hallucination, but she has some kind of foresight that's wrong. But she sees Genosuke getting killed by Irako right before the match starts. So I guess she already accepted that as the fate and killed herself as soon as Genosuke started.
Really?
Well, if she kills herself after he kills Irako, that's kind of weird. That doesn't make any sense.
I thought she was in love with Irako.
Yeah, she did love him too. That could be another way to look at it, because it's also odd. I mean, it's a foreign train of thought compared to.
So what you're telling me is you don't actually even get to see when she kills herself?
No, he goes over to where she's sitting. She's already dead.
How should she stab herself in the neck or something?
I think she did the traditional harikiri.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, what else have you got to elaborate on the manga anyway? Because you said it goes into a lot more detail than the anime does.
It does. In fact, it goes into too much detail is a problem. But I will tell you that I think if you're good with reading manga and you watch Death Frenzy and it was a little interesting to you or something, then check out the manga definitely, because it goes more into like what the setting of the era would have been like. There's more characters. There's more depth to the four characters we talked about. For example, like something you don't know. I'll go over the four characters we talked about and tell you the more stuff you learn about them in the manga. What happened with like Inosuke, which actually makes him more of a protagonist than, the anime. Anime, he's just sort of there. But what happened was when he was a kid, his father died and Kogen actually adopted him. And then on top of that, he'd always been like, not a very wordy person, but he'd always been a very humble and good-natured person, and it's shown every once in a while throughout the manga, and it's not really shown in the anime.
Yeah.
And what happened was there gets to be a point where Irako isn't sure if he really wants to, sort of usurp Genosuke, in the middle of it. And they're out training or something. They're bonding. They're doing male bonding with some of the other characters. And Genosuke talks a little bit about what being a samurai is through his. He doesn't come out and say his personal history, but he tells them the end result of what his view of being a samurai is, which is, like a good-natured guy and everything, etc. The typical.
Hold on. You sound like a robot, which is kind of funny. I think my Skype is messing up a bit.
Okay.
Continue anyway. I just want the listeners to know, but I can't do anything about it, so carry on anyway.
Okay. Well, what happens is whatever answer he gives, Irako apparently really pisses him off. Like, it hits a nerve with him. And I'll kind of explain why when I talk about Irako. But, basically he gives you the typical idealized Bushido definitions of what a samurai is. Right?
Yeah, go on. So I'm just, you actually sound like co-host right now. Your voice has been mechanical. When you hear it, when you listen to this, you're going to be laughing. You actually sound like a robot. I'm actually not going to edit this out, so keep talking, man.
Well, one of my all-time favorites, probably my favorite, is Battle Angel Alita. So maybe I'm actually a cyborg cat.
Oh, it stopped.
Oh.
As soon as I started laughing, it was like, no, fuck you. Just put him back to normal.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, I mean, like, Genosuke has some more emotions that are shown in the manga than the anime too, as the story is told. It's like some things that should really piss him off, and it doesn't show that in the anime. It pisses him off in the manga. He's very withdrawn about it though. So he's private about when he lets it actually eat away at him. Like, he'll go away into a room and then start pinching his thigh or whatever,
he seems like that kind of guy.
Right,
yeah.
And that's not really shown in the anime. It's kind of implied, but you know what I mean? It's actually shown in the manga. Now I'll talk about Irako, and this might make you like him more. It's going to make you see the Griffith thing, the Griffith analogy I brought up earlier, because this is Irako. You do know that he is the son of a prostitute, right? That's shown in the anime. Mm-hmm. But what's not shown is the more of the thieving of techniques and everything, like and doing anything it'll take to win, really. Irako, when he first meets Genosuke, it's not really shown in the anime. I think it's lost on viewers outside of Japan, but the guy is dressed kind of like a geisha. He's dressed like a gay guy.
I noticed that, actually.
Right.
I did notice that he was drawn a bit too pretty, actually.
It's not just, that he looks pretty. He dresses pretty, too, and he wears his hair long like a woman and everything, and he...
I see the Griffith reference here.
Yeah. It's more than just that, though. Like, during the match with Genosuke, what really strikes a nerve with Genosuke is when they fight, Irako is, like, seducing him kind of subtly while they're fighting. And, like, Genosuke's specialty is when you clash the swords together and you push the other guy down. When they're doing that, Irako starts, like, touching his hands and everything like a woman would before he hits a pressure point and then breaks his hand. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
So that's not shown in the anime, but he in the manga, it's shown right away. This guy is he's not on the up and up.
I see what you mean. I see what you got with this now.
So it's kind of foreshadowed actually in the manga that this guy's a seductress. It's not shown in the anime, but it's shown in the manga that he's kind of a dirty guy. And it goes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's more interesting because it goes back further into his past. This guy actually apprenticed himself to a doctor. And he learned he acted like a good old boy, like a good little boy, did his time and everything as the apprentice of this doctor until he learned the guy's pressure point techniques. Who he had been using this to heal people, right? But not Irako. He doesn't want it for that. So he learned it. They were out on a lake or something, if I'm remembering right, and he used it on the doctor and killed him. Yeah. he literally seduced the guy, not sexually, but like through goodwill, and then stole his technique and then killed him and then continued on his journey.
You're right. I am starting to like this guy more. He's just so more interesting than anyone in it. He's just such a funny character, man. I really like that guy.
Yeah.
And you're selling me more on him as you're telling me these things, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, I'm sure I'm forgetting some stuff, but at its core, there's a lot more to each character. And Irako is like, in the anime, he's kind of just the guy that wants to be at the top. But in the manga, this is a guy who came from the very bottom with nothing, and he's stealing everything to get to the top.
Right, so hold on. Since you're talking about the manga, you never actually spoke about how you felt about the art style, because obviously the anime is animated so well. But did you feel that the manga was animated greatly as well?
You know, I actually feel that the anime is drawn better than the manga. You know, it's close, but I would say that the anime is done better than the manga in terms of visual.
Okay. Well, I'm not surprised because they really went all out on the anime. So yeah, I kind of would need the answers to that, but I was just interested to see if it was at least above average or something. But okay.
So there's a little bit more, particularly with Kogan. Did they ever really show him doing the school thing? I forgot if that was just a manga where he was taxing schools.
No, they never really went back into his past at all,
Okay.
There was no flashbacks with him.
Okay, they actually dip back into Kogan's past a few times in the manga. For example, he made a name for himself doing that thing where he went around beating up dojos and then would tax them, right? So the sword instructor, I forget who it was. Actually, it might have been, it was some historical figure, right? What happened was eventually towards his middle age, as he got older and became more renowned, he got invited to participate to become the emperor's sword instructor, right? But there's something about him that is shown in the anime, but we didn't really talk about it. Is Kogan actually has 6 fingers on his sword hand? Okay.
No, they did talk about an anime though.
Right.
They did because he had to hide one of them.
I'm saying you and I didn't, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. So when he was auditioning for that and he was about to face the current sword instructor, he ended up winning as a no contest, but I think it was declared a draw by the judge, and the guy kind of backstabbed him, and even though he knew he was his superior, Kogan was his superior, he suggested that having 6 fingers is kind of unsightly, so that he would hide it, and he hid it, and he got screwed because of that. He got screwed out of the job. So there's a little bit more to his madness. I mean, I guess that was shown in the anime, right? Okay, so you actually said that it wasn't explained at all, but that is part of this explanation.
Okay.
But I mean, like the traveling around beating up guys, being kind of a thug. I mean,
he was an asshole in the anime. There was even a scene in the anime where he nearly raped his own fucking daughter. The guy was a sicko.
Yeah, there was something wrong with that guy, definitely. But I mean, to him, the daughter wasn't even really a person. It was just
yeah,
just a thing to continue on his bloodline. Yeah.
All right, so you done? Old boy giving us that extra point of view. So you got an anime and manga review this time, and it's not even like we did it as a double, but you're just filling in the gap, because a lot of people are pissed off. I showed you the link, the forum of people asking, "Where's the rest? When's the last episode coming?"
Yeah, I mean, people really want that fight, and I don't blame them. That's the whole reason why you watch it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a false advertising there. It's a bit of a piss take, So. But anyway, appreciate that, old boy. Appreciate you filling in those gaps. And yeah, I mean, I kind of wish the anime wasn't so weird and they added in those things you just told us. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But
well, I think it still would have been weird. That was a big purpose of the series. But if it would have helped if they had extended it to like 24 episodes.
Yeah,
it would have helped a lot, especially if they had the climatic battle.
Yep. But they didn't, so another one of them. You do get these kind of animes every once in a while. I can't think of another one to mind right now, but you never know. Maybe they'll redo the anime. I don't know. I don't really think it needs to be.
Yeah, all they would need to do is add another episode.
Yeah.
So for me, this is also an acquired taste, but I look at it more favorably personally. It's like if you're interested in what it would have been like in the feudal era with the samurais and everything, this is a much different take than what you would get from any other anime or manga series, really. I mean, maybe some of the really old manga series to kind of touch on that fanaticism.
Okay, cool, no problem. Oh, let's leave it there. We've given the people enough information, saved them enough time, given them our thoughts, and oh boy, we'll leave it at that, man. So people, we'll catch you on the next one.